Men over 60, the testosterone superfoods that fire up your love life. Yeah, I said it. Testosterone, love life over 60. And if you think those three don't belong in the same sentence anymore, think again. Here's the truth most doctors won't say out loud. Your testosterone doesn't just fall off a cliff when you turn 60. It fades slowly, silently. And the real danger, you don't even realize it's gone until your spark, your edge, your intimacy starts slipping away. Now some will tell you the only way back is a prescription, a patch, or a shot. But what if the real secret to reigniting your energy, your drive, and yes, your bedroom confidence, was already in your kitchen? That's right. Today, I'm going to reveal the top 10 testosterone-boosting superfoods that every man over 60 should know about. Each one is backed by science, tested on real patients, and packed with the nutrients your body needs to produce more testosterone naturally. So whether you're retired, semi-retired, or just tired of feeling less than yourself, this video could be your turning point. But before we dive in, tap that like button, share this with a buddy, and subscribe if you're ready to take your health and your love life to the next level. We've got more powerful videos coming your way, and your support keeps us going. Now, are you ready to meet the foods that might just change your life after 60? Let's get started. Overview: testosterone after 60, the inside story. Let's take a moment to talk about what's really going on inside your body as you age, and why it doesn't have to be the end of your energy, drive, or masculinity. Testosterone is the primary male sex hormone. It fuels your libido, energy, strength, mental sharpness, and bone density. But starting in your early 30s, your testosterone levels begin to decline, slowly, quietly by about 1 to 2% per year. By the time you hit 60, you may have lost up to 40% of what you had in your prime. And that shift isn't just a number, it shows up in real ways: decreased desire, softer erections, more belly fat, weaker muscles, lower motivation, and brain fog that leaves you feeling off. This is what doctors call andropause. But here's the good news. Unlike menopause in women, andropause doesn't mean your hormones shut down completely. Your body is still capable of producing testosterone, it just becomes less efficient over time. That inefficiency, however, can be corrected. How? With the right raw materials. Scientific research consistently shows that certain nutrients, zinc, vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, and antioxidants, are directly linked to higher testosterone levels and improved hormone balance. For example, one study found that men who took magnesium daily increased their free testosterone by over 20% in just 4 weeks. Another showed that correcting vitamin D deficiency resulted in testosterone increases of up to 25%. The nutrients your body needs to fire up hormone production aren't hidden in expensive pills. They are in real food. When you eat the right foods, you're not just fueling your body. You're rebuilding the very systems that keep you strong, focused, and confident. And this goes beyond libido. It's about muscle, metabolism, motivation, and mood. Testosterone decline is tied to muscle loss, higher inflammation, even increased risk of heart disease and depression. But optimizing your diet gives your body the chance to reverse course. So let me ask you, what if the low energy, slow mornings, or extra belly fat weren't just about getting older, but about being underfueled? In the chapters ahead, we'll break down the top 10 testosterone-boosting superfoods for men over 60. Each one is backed by real science, supported by real stories, and offers a clear, practical way to restore what age may have taken. You don't need to guess, you just need to eat smarter. Let's get into it. Number 10, walnuts, the brain-boosting testosterone snack. These may look small, but they pack a powerful punch. Walnuts are far more than a crunchy snack. They are one of nature's richest sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, as well as polyphenols, magnesium, vitamin E, and healthy unsaturated fats. These compounds work together to support heart health, reduce inflammation, and play a critical role in testosterone production, especially in men over 60. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition shows that dietary intake of ALA is associated with higher testosterone levels, while additional studies link magnesium intake to increases in free testosterone, the active form your body actually uses. In fact, one clinical trial revealed that men who consumed 10 mg/kg of magnesium daily for 4 weeks saw a 24% boost in free testosterone. And because walnuts may help lower levels of sex hormone-binding globulin, SHBG, which binds testosterone and renders it inactive, they indirectly help keep your free testosterone levels optimized. Beyond hormones, walnuts are brain-friendly, too. A large observational study involving over 26,000 adults found that regular walnut consumers reported significantly fewer symptoms of depression and better overall mental well-being. Another trial saw mood disturbances drop by 27% in young adults after just 8 weeks of daily walnut consumption. The connection is clear. When inflammation goes down and essential nutrients go up, the brain and body work better together. I had a patient named Frank, 64 years old, tired, withdrawn, and frustrated with his declining energy and intimacy. He didn't want pills, just something natural. We started small, 1 ounce of walnuts daily added to Greek yogurt or eaten as a midday snack. 4 weeks later, Frank said, "Doc, it's like someone plugged me back in." His blood work confirmed it, free testosterone up 13%, inflammation markers down, and his energy noticeably restored. So let me ask, could something this simple help you feel sharper, more motivated, and more connected again? If you're thinking about making a change, this is one of the easiest places to start. Just 1 ounce a day, about 12 to 14 walnut halves, is all it takes. Add them to smoothies, oatmeal, or enjoy them with berries for a powerful, hormone-supporting snack. It's a small habit, but it might just spark a bigger transformation. Number 9, oysters, the zinc-powered libido booster. If there's one food that's earned its reputation for boosting male vitality over centuries, it's oysters. Often called an aphrodisiac, oysters aren't just folklore. They're biologically effective. What makes them stand out is their exceptional zinc content. Just 6 medium oysters provide nearly 300% of the daily recommended intake. Zinc is vital for testosterone production because it helps stimulate luteinizing hormone, which signals the testes to make testosterone. It also inhibits the aromatase enzyme, preventing testosterone from being converted into estrogen, and helps reduce oxidative stress in the testes, preserving Leydig cell function. In addition to zinc, oysters are packed with vitamin B12, omega-3 fatty acids, and tyrosine, a dopamine-boosting amino acid that supports mood, motivation, and libido. Scientific evidence backs this up. A 2010 study published in Nutrition showed that zinc-deficient men experienced significant increases in testosterone after just 6 weeks of supplementation. Another trial found that 30 mg of zinc daily over 3 months improved testosterone and sperm motility in older men. And while direct clinical trials on oysters themselves are limited, animal studies show that oyster peptides support testicular health and hormone production. It's clear that when it comes to testosterone, food sources like oysters offer a powerful, natural solution, especially for older men who may be borderline deficient without realizing it. I remember a patient named Samuel, 65, a retired engineer who had recently started dating again. He came to my office with a straightforward concern. "I want to feel ready again physically, mentally, romantically." His labs showed borderline low testosterone. Instead of rushing into testosterone therapy, we took a more natural route. I advised him to eat 3 to 6 oysters twice a week, paired with a vitamin C-rich salad to boost mineral absorption. 2 months later, he returned beaming. His energy was up, his mood had shifted, and in his words, "I've had more fun in the last month than I did all last year." His testosterone levels climbed from 380 to 470 ng/dl, and his confidence came roaring back. So here's a thought. What's one easy thing you could add to your diet this week that might quietly support your hormones, mood, and overall vitality? If you've never tried oysters, or haven't in a while, it might be time to revisit them. They can be enjoyed raw if safe and fresh, steamed with lemon and olive oil, or tossed into a seafood salad with avocado and greens. Not a fan of raw? Cooked oysters still pack most of their zinc punch. Just skip the fried, breaded versions. They undo the benefits. Casanova claimed to eat 50 oysters a day. That might be overkill, but science suggests he was on to something. Number 8, egg yolks, nature's hormone capsule. For years, egg yolks got a bad rap. Blamed for heart disease and high cholesterol, many men, especially those trying to eat clean, tossed them aside and stuck with egg whites. But modern science has turned that old thinking on its head. For men over 60 looking to naturally support testosterone, egg yolks are not just safe, they are essential. Each yolk is packed with hormone-building nutrients like vitamin D, which supports the Leydig cells responsible for testosterone production, and cholesterol, the raw material your body needs to make that hormone in the first place. You'll also find vitamin K2 for vascular health, B12 and B6 for energy and hormone metabolism, and the right kinds of fats your body uses to maintain hormonal balance. Research supports this. A 2011 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that men who ate more dietary fat, particularly from whole foods like eggs, had significantly higher free testosterone levels. And while most men think of vitamin D as a bone supplement, it's also critical for hormonal health. 3 pasture-raised egg yolks provide about 40% of your daily vitamin D, helping to address deficiencies that are common in aging men and often linked to low testosterone. I once worked with a 63-year-old former coach named George. He still exercised regularly and ate what he thought was a healthy diet, but he felt drained, unfocused, and uninterested in intimacy. When we reviewed his meals, it turned out he'd been eating only egg whites for years. I encouraged him to reintroduce 2 to 3 whole eggs each morning, paired with spinach sautéed in olive oil. 6 weeks later, George reported sharper energy, stronger morning erections, and more drive at home and in the gym. His blood work confirmed a 17% increase in testosterone and a healthy rise in vitamin D. It's worth asking, could something as simple as adding back the yolk change how you feel throughout the day? Maybe even how you show up for your partner or yourself? If you're ready to give it a try, go for pasture-raised eggs whenever possible. They contain nearly double the vitamin D and omega-3s of conventional eggs. Scramble them with leafy greens, poach over whole grain toast, or slice boiled eggs into a hearty salad with avocado and seeds. And don't fear the cholesterol. It's processed foods, not real ones like eggs, that pose a risk to your heart. When eaten in balance, egg yolks are not only safe, they are one of the most complete hormone-supporting foods you can put on your plate. Number 7, spinach, the magnesium muscle booster. You've heard it your whole life, eat your greens. But few men realize that spinach, one of the most affordable and accessible vegetables, has a direct impact on testosterone levels, muscle strength, and even sexual performance. This leafy powerhouse is rich in magnesium, a mineral essential for maintaining healthy levels of free testosterone, the kind your body can actually use. When magnesium is low, more testosterone binds to sex hormone-binding globulin, SHBG, making it inactive. Spinach also contains nitrates, which convert into nitric oxide and help dilate blood vessels, improving circulation throughout the body, including to areas that matter most for intimacy. In fact, some researchers call spinach a natural PDE5 inhibitor. Think of it as nature's Viagra, but in salad form. Add in iron to support energy, vitamin E and antioxidants to protect hormone-producing cells, and you've got one of the most complete hormonal allies growing in the produce aisle. A study published in Biological Trace Element Research showed that men who supplemented with 10 mg of magnesium per kilogram of body weight for 4 weeks experienced a 24% increase in free testosterone levels, especially when combined with exercise. Meanwhile, spinach delivers about 20% of your daily magnesium needs in just 1 cooked cup, along with countless plant compounds that enhance cellular energy, recovery, and hormone sensitivity. Studies also suggest nitrate-rich foods like spinach improve blood pressure, vascular health, and even erectile function by increasing nitric oxide availability, an effect that may be even more relevant for men over 60, who often experience stiffness and poor circulation. One of my patients, Richard, was 70, a retired pilot and grandfather who came to see me feeling sluggish, dealing with poor circulation and struggling with declining libido. He wasn't interested in another prescription. He wanted something natural. I suggested starting with a simple morning smoothie, raw spinach, banana, pumpkin seeds, Greek yogurt, and a pinch of cinnamon. Within 2 weeks, he returned with a glow, reporting easier walks, less morning stiffness, deeper sleep, and a subtle but steady rise in libido. His wife even asked, "What got into you?" His blood pressure had dropped, his energy was up, and the only major change was that daily dose of leafy green magic. So here's something to think about. How could adding 1 handful of spinach a day change your energy, your circulation, maybe even your confidence? You can blend it into smoothies, sauté it with garlic and olive oil, fold it into scrambled eggs or omelets, or toss it into salads. And if you pair spinach with vitamin C-rich foods like bell peppers or citrus, you'll absorb more of its iron, a bonus for energy and focus. Bottom line, spinach is one of the cheapest, most powerful foods for men's hormone health. Don't overlook it, eat it often, let it work. Number 6. Pumpkin seeds, the mineral-rich testosterone snack. Pumpkin seeds might seem like a simple snack, but they are a powerful ally for men over 60 looking to naturally support testosterone levels. Also known as pepitas, these small green seeds are loaded with essential minerals, most notably zinc and magnesium, that directly impact hormonal function. Zinc is crucial for testosterone production and sperm quality, while magnesium helps increase levels of free testosterone and improves sleep quality, which is when your body produces most of its testosterone. Just 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds provides about 2 mg of zinc and 168 mg of magnesium, making it an efficient, food-based way to correct common deficiencies that many older men don't even realize they have. The science behind it is compelling. In one study, older men who supplemented with zinc saw notable increases in testosterone and improvements in sperm health. Another clinical trial found that magnesium supplementation increased free testosterone by up to 26%, especially in men who exercised regularly. Pumpkin seeds provide both minerals in a natural, bioavailable form. Plus, they come with antioxidants like vitamin E and lignans that help protect Leydig cells, the part of the testes responsible for testosterone production. These antioxidants play a vital role in fighting oxidative stress, which tends to increase with age and can impair hormone function. I think of Bob, one of my 66-year-old patients, who came to me struggling with low energy, poor sleep, and a noticeable drop in motivation. His testosterone was in the low normal range, and while he wasn't ready for medication, he was open to dietary changes. I suggested something simple: replace his daily bag of chips with a handful of pumpkin seeds and a tall glass of water with lemon. That was it. 3 weeks later, Bob walked in energized. I feel more alert in the afternoons, I'm sleeping deeper, and let's just say my wife isn't complaining. His follow-up labs showed improved zinc and magnesium status, and his testosterone increased by a solid 10% without any other changes. It wasn't dramatic, but it was meaningful. Bob called them his new secret weapon. If you're looking for a small change with a big impact, ask yourself, what's your go-to snack, and is it doing anything for your health? Pumpkin seeds are easy to work into your day. Eat them raw or roasted, sprinkle them on oatmeal or yogurt, add them to smoothies, or toss them into a homemade trail mix. My advice: stick with 1 to 2 tablespoons per day and go for unsalted, raw, organic seeds when possible to get the full benefits without added sodium or oils. One more bonus: pumpkin seeds are a good source of tryptophan, an amino acid that supports deeper sleep. And deeper sleep means more natural testosterone production overnight. When something so small can support your hormones, energy, sleep, and mood, it's worth keeping a jar of these in your kitchen at all times. Number 5. Ashwagandha, the ancient stress slayer. Ashwagandha, a staple of Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, is now gaining recognition in the modern world for one powerful reason: it helps stressed, aging men reclaim their vitality. This adaptogenic herb, known scientifically as Withania somnifera, helps the body adapt to stress. And that's key because chronic stress and elevated cortisol levels are some of the most common testosterone killers after age 60. High cortisol suppresses testosterone production, impairs sleep, and depletes energy. Ashwagandha works by reducing cortisol, increasing testosterone, improving sleep quality, and enhancing physical and mental performance. A 2019 double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in the American Journal of Men's Health found that men who took 600 mg of ashwagandha extract daily for 8 weeks experienced a 15% increase in testosterone, a 25% boost in sperm count, and a 22% drop in cortisol. Another study in 2020 showed that when combined with light resistance training, ashwagandha improved muscle strength, reduced fat, and elevated overall vitality in men over 50. One of my patients, Thomas, age 67, was a high-functioning, semi-retired executive who came to me exhausted, restless, and detached from intimacy. He wasn't looking for synthetic testosterone. He wanted something natural. I recommended 600 mg of standardized ashwagandha extract taken each evening with food. Within 8 weeks, he reported falling asleep faster, waking up refreshed, and feeling more emotionally grounded and physically present with his partner. His blood work backed it up. Cortisol dropped by 23%, testosterone increased by 14%, and even his resting heart rate and blood pressure improved. I feel younger, not in years, but in how I respond to life, he told me. If you're looking for a way to support testosterone while navigating the stress of aging, ashwagandha might be your answer. Capsule form is easy. Aim for 300 to 600 mg per day of a clinically tested extract like KSM 66 or Sensoril. You can also mix a half teaspoon of the powder into smoothies, herbal tea, or warm milk. Evening use is ideal to support relaxation and overnight hormone recovery. Just be consistent. Most results show up between weeks 6 and 8. A quick note on safety. While ashwagandha is well tolerated by most, men on thyroid medication or sedatives should consult with their doctor before starting. So here's a thought. What if your fatigue and low motivation weren't just age, but stress wearing your hormones down? Ashwagandha might be the natural, science-backed way to take some of that power back. Number 4. Wild-caught salmon, the sunshine superfood. Wild-caught salmon isn't just a delicious dinner option. It's one of the most testosterone-supportive foods you can put on your plate. This fatty fish is rich in vitamin D, which acts more like a hormone in the body than a vitamin. It plays a direct role in testosterone production, and deficiency is strongly linked to low levels of this vital male hormone. A 3-5-ounce serving of wild salmon provides more than 100% of your daily vitamin D needs, along with over 2,000 mg of omega-3 fatty acids and more than 20 grams of high-quality protein. Omega-3s reduce inflammation and protect Leydig cells, the specialized cells in the testes that produce testosterone. Salmon also contains selenium and B vitamins, key players in hormone regulation, as well as astaxanthin, a powerful antioxidant that helps protect testosterone-producing tissues from oxidative stress. Research supports these benefits. A 2011 clinical trial found that men supplementing with 3,000 IU of vitamin D daily for a year experienced a 25% increase in testosterone. And newer studies show that omega-3 intake correlates with improved testicular function and hormonal balance in men, especially as they age. One study even showed that DHA-enriched fish oil increased testosterone levels in overweight men, regardless of their age or BMI. So salmon doesn't just fill you up, it fuels your hormones. Take John, one of my patients, for example. He was 62, working indoors, rarely got sun, and came to me feeling drained, disconnected, and low on drive. His blood work showed critically low vitamin D and below optimal testosterone. He started with food, 2 servings of wild-caught salmon each week, a moderate D3 supplement of 2,000 IU per day, and a simple strength training routine twice weekly. After 12 weeks, his testosterone jumped from 390 to 505 ng/dl. His vitamin D levels normalized, and both his mood and libido returned. His wife smiled and said, "He's back." If you're looking for an easy upgrade to your diet, salmon is a no-brainer. Grill it with lemon and herbs, bake it with garlic and olive oil, flake it into grain bowls, or add it to scrambled eggs. Even canned wild salmon can be a convenient, budget-friendly option. Just remember to choose wild-caught, not farmed. Wild salmon has more omega-3s, fewer toxins, and a better nutrient profile for hormone health. Vitamin D from salmon also supports erectile function, sharper thinking, and immune resilience. Key benefits for staying energized and vibrant as you age. So next time you plan dinner, ask yourself, could this meal bring you closer to the man you want to feel like again? For many men, salmon is a tasty step in the right direction. Number 3, Greek yogurt, the gut hormone connector. Greek yogurt might seem like just a breakfast option, but for men over 60, it's one of the most powerful hormone-supporting foods you can eat. Your gut health and your hormone health are deeply connected, and Greek yogurt strengthens that connection. It's rich in probiotics, live beneficial bacteria that improve gut flora, reduce inflammation, and support immune function. Why does this matter for testosterone? Because inflammation, poor digestion, and imbalanced gut bacteria all play a role in suppressing your natural hormone production. Plain, full-fat Greek yogurt is also packed with calcium and vitamin D, which are crucial for hormonal balance and mood regulation, as well as B vitamins, especially B12, which help generate energy and synthesize sex hormones. With 20 grams of protein per cup, it supports muscle mass, insulin sensitivity, and metabolic function, all key to keeping testosterone levels optimal. Research in Frontiers in Endocrinology has shown that men with more diverse gut microbiota had higher free testosterone, lower cortisol, and better metabolic health overall. One of my patients, David, 68, came to me with low energy, poor sleep, and frequent digestive issues. His libido was down and he felt sluggish. We made a few changes, but one simple shift had a major impact. He replaced his sugary cereal with a bowl of plain Greek yogurt topped with walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and berries. After 6 weeks, David reported better digestion, deeper sleep, more consistent energy, and yes, his libido returned. His lab results showed a modest bump in total testosterone, but his free testosterone rose over 20%, likely due to improved gut health and reduced SHBG. Greek yogurt is easy to work into your routine. Try it in the morning with seeds and fruit, as a post-workout snack, or as the base for smoothies and salad dressings. You can even stir in a little ashwagandha powder at night for a relaxing, hormone-supporting tonic. Just make sure to choose plain, full-fat Greek yogurt with live and active cultures listed on the label. Avoid sugary versions that undo the benefits. A healthy gut doesn't just improve your hormones, it sharpens your mind, strengthens your immune system, and boosts your mood. For older men, that's not just a bonus, it's essential. Number 2, avocados, the healthy fat powerhouse. Avocados are one of the best foods a man over 60 can eat for hormone health. Packed with monounsaturated fats, especially oleic acid. They support cholesterol balance, which is crucial because cholesterol is the raw material your body uses to produce testosterone. Unlike harmful trans fats or processed oils, the healthy fats in avocados help increase testosterone without the side effects. They're also rich in vitamin B6, which aids testosterone synthesis and supports mood, magnesium to boost free testosterone and improve insulin sensitivity, and vitamin E to protect testicular cells from oxidative stress. Plus, their high potassium content helps regulate blood pressure and improve circulation, both essential for sexual health and vitality. Research backs this up. A 2013 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that men consuming more monounsaturated fats had significantly higher testosterone levels than those on low-fat diets. More recently, a meta-analysis showed that low-fat diets could reduce testosterone by 10–15%, especially when healthy fats like those in avocados were removed. Avocados also help regulate blood sugar, thanks to their fiber and fat combo, important because insulin resistance is closely linked to lower testosterone. Take Harold, 70. He had spent years on a low-fat diet thinking it was heart-healthy, but he came to me feeling drained, emotionally flat, and disengaged from intimacy. His testosterone was at 310 ng/dl, low but not dangerously so. We added half an avocado to his daily lunch, swapped out refined carbs, and increased healthy fats across the board. After 12 weeks, his testosterone had risen to 450 ng/dl, his blood pressure improved, and he lost 6 pounds of belly fat. "I feel fuller, clearer, and more alive," he said. "I didn't realize how much my body needed fat." Avocados are easy to work into any routine. Spread mashed avocado on sprouted grain toast, slice into salads, blend into smoothies, or whip up guacamole with lime and garlic. The fat also helps your body absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K more efficiently, especially when paired with vegetables, eggs, or fish. Bonus benefit: the magnesium and B6 in avocados help reduce cortisol, the stress hormone that suppresses testosterone. So with every creamy bite, you're not only nourishing your body, you're protecting your hormones from one of their biggest enemies, stress. Number 1. Sardines, the underrated hormone hero. Sardines may not be the flashiest food, but when it comes to hormone support, they are unmatched. Packed into a humble tin, sardines deliver a powerful dose of vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, selenium, high-quality protein, and even calcium and phosphorus from their edible bones. These nutrients work synergistically to boost testosterone, protect heart health, and support bone and immune function, all vital for men over 60. 1-3. 75-ounce can provide over 30% of your daily vitamin D needs, more than 1,000 mg of omega-3s, up to 18 grams of protein, 15% of your zinc, and nearly a third of your calcium, all in one quick meal. Science backs it up. A 2022 meta-analysis found that men with vitamin D deficiency who corrected their levels saw a 25% increase in testosterone. Omega-3s improve Leydig cell function, the cells in your testes that produce testosterone, reduce inflammation, and enhance blood flow. Combined with zinc and selenium, both essential for hormone regulation, sardines hit every mark. They even outshine some multivitamins because the nutrients come in a bioavailable, food-based form that your body can use more efficiently. Take Mark, 66, who was skeptical of anything labeled a superfood. He didn't want supplements or shakes, just simple food. We added 3 servings of sardines per week, packed in olive oil, served with lemon, capers, and a side of leafy greens. 6 weeks later, he came back energized, reporting more frequent morning erections, better mood, and a renewed sense of vitality. His testosterone had climbed from 370 ng/dl to 485 ng/dl. "I didn't expect much," he said, "but now my fridge is stocked with sardines. If you want to get started, eat them straight from the can with a squeeze of lemon, mash onto avocado toast, toss into a salad with spinach and seeds, or build a Mediterranean bowl with brown rice and fresh veggies." Dr. Williams' tip: choose sardines packed in extra virgin olive oil, not vegetable oil, to amplify the anti-inflammatory benefits. Sardines are affordable, shelf-stable, nutrient-dense, and clinically proven to support testosterone, cardiovascular health, brain clarity, and long-term vitality. For men over 60 looking to feel sharp, strong, and energized, this underrated pantry staple could be your secret weapon. So let's bring it home. You've now seen the top 10 testosterone superfoods that can support your energy, your strength, your focus, and yes, your love life well into your 60s and beyond. These aren't fads, they're real, accessible foods with real, science-backed power. I've seen these changes firsthand in my patients. Men who were tired, frustrated, and disconnected, transforming in just weeks with small, consistent changes to what they put on their plate. So now I've got just one question for you. Which of these superfoods are you going to start with? Because trust me, your body is still capable of incredible things. You just need to give it the right fuel. Thank you for watching, and thank you for taking your health seriously. If you found this helpful, do us a favor. Hit that like button, share it with a friend who needs this, and subscribe so you never miss the next step in your journey. We've got more game-changing videos coming up. From natural supplements, to lifestyle hacks, to real talk about male health after 60. So stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next video.